Yeah.
Yeah. And we are live. Welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Sundays with the General. I'm joined this week by Mark Pacelli of Pat's Twitter, a guest on the Entitled Weekend Crew. What's going on, brother? How we doing?
It is. It's starting to get a little bit warmer over here. Spring's in
Yeah,
the air.
you were just about to say it's a beautiful day out, and then you stopped yourself, and you're like, it's trying to decide if it's gonna be a beautiful day.
Yeah, like we might get into like the low 50s today. That constitutes as beautiful right now.
Yeah, and you know what though? I gotta say, man, it still feels nicer than it did like yesterday when it was supposed to be warmer out yesterday.
Yeah. It's very odd. I'm hoping that we don't get another blizzard, which is still very much a possibility up until May 1st over here.
Yeah, that's we're not out of the woods yet. We never. And I could go. I could just make this an episode about the weather. Maybe I should stop myself. I, I do that sometimes. I just go off on tangents about the weather. And I don't think that's actually what people watch the show for. Maybe maybe it is. But before we get into, let's talk NFL news real quick because it's fresh on everyone's mind. The big one. Bill, Bill Belichick made a trade. He got Patriots fans what they have been asking for. A wide receiver, but now we've been told he's not a true wide receiver one. Is this? Is this? I don't know. I don't know if this is true. He's too injured all the time. It's not the guy they wanted, so it's a bad move.
Exactly. The entire offseason, any breathing wide receiver that is either a free agent or available via trade, it's how come Bill didn't do this? How come Bill didn't do that? I guarantee you, yesterday, if Devontae Parker had been traded for that same package that Patriots fans
To
think aren't good
Green
enough,
Bay
yeah,
or
Green Bay or
Kansas City, it's oh my god, they are gonna destroy teams this year.
yeah, it's well, and it would have been what Bill couldn't have done that. Okay, well,
Well, yeah, Bill couldn't have done that. And
yeah,
we saw them. This is one of my favorites. They complained that we didn't get Robert Woods, who's older, cost more, and spent more time out last season.
yeah, coming
But
off of a torn ACL.
we're concerned about Devontae Parker's injury history. This fucking vape pen is like loaded in this plastic. This is a pain in the ass. But yeah, we're concerned about Devontae Parker's injury history, but like no, Robert Woods missed half the season. That would have been
Or
fine.
you have again all of Patriots Twitter still salivating over where's OBJ? Where's OBJ? OBJ is going to miss half the year. He tore his ACL very notably in the Super Bowl, but they're like, why haven't you signed him yet?
Yeah, it's not like he just did it like late in the season and he started redo. He went through the playoffs and then he did it. Like
Yeah, he's 2 months off an
he's
ACL
missing
tear.
time next year.
Yeah, and probably won't sign until after the draft either. But Patriots fans, if the offseason is not completed, the second day of legal tampering, they think everything the sky is
Dude,
falling.
first hour of legal tampering, I think they need you to fucking
True.
finish it. They can't be happy. I personally, I like the move.
Oh yeah, same here.
Guy's been productive when he's in there. I think he's been hurt by quarterback play. We were talking earlier. You were talking about the difference in the numbers when he had Fitzpatrick thrown to him instead of Tua. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I like I said, this whole injury history thing is it's a little blown out of proportion to me. I understand the guy has missed games. He's never really played full seasons, but like it's not like he's missing. Like they're like, people are like, oh, he'll play his mandatory 5 games a year, like whatever, his usual 5 games a year. He's never played in less than 10.
Yeah, let's stop treating him like he's Will Fuller. Okay, like he had this past year where he missed 7 games. Other than that, he has he's missed 4 games, maybe a year.
Yeah, so the most games he ever missed was last season.
Yeah,
I And I mean, let's also not forget that Hunter Henry never played a full season his entire career. Came to New England, played a full
Yeah, I
healthy.
mean, you
Like
gotta
it's
you gotta remember too. Sometimes it's simply the training staff on some of these teams. Some God, the chart you pointed out Hunter Henry. Chargers training staff nearly killed
I was
Tyrod
just gonna
Taylor.
say, dude, the Chargers fucking punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung, dude. Like,
Yeah,
it, and I don't even like. I still can't even like understand how that happens. Like,
like yeah, you have to take into consideration some of these training staffs are completely inept, or in a lot of cases they do not have the best interests of the player themselves in mind. Their
yeah,
goal is to get the player back on the field, not necessarily get them healthy.
you hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it is true. I'm not. I mean, maybe Miami is a place that would do that. I mean, their owner has been accused of fixing games, so
Well, it's in their DNA. I mean, you had Don Shula, who was shoving
yeah,
painkillers down players' throats for decades.
yeah. See, this is great. This is good stuff to talk about on Sunday afternoon. How the Dolphins are terrible.
Yeah,
I like
let's
this.
just complete smear job of the Miami Dolphins. I'm in for
Yep.
it.
You want to skip the other topics and just shit on the Dolphins and the Bills
Well,
for an hour?
Dolphins Twitter is already pissed with me already for a completely not innocent statement. So it might as well go full in.
Yeah, might as well, right? The other NFL news I think was this week was Bobby Wagner signing with the Rams. Dude, I got to see how they're wording these contracts. I know it. Like, I don't understand how they're fitting all these big contracts into their roster. They got to be wording them fucked up at least. There's got to be a few dead years on this. 5 years, 65 million. He's 31 years old. There's got to be a couple of dead years thrown into the end of that.
Oh yeah, that's why I never react initially when I see NFL contracts come out because they're always made with monopoly money. You hear 5 years, 65 million, and really it turns out to be like a 2 year deal with like 30 million guaranteed, and then they with the signing bonus they spread things into future years. It's not a good practice to be doing a ton of, as we've discussed several times, but that's
Oh
what they're
yeah,
doing
it's.
initially.
I mean, so I. It's not a good practice to do a ton of it. I think the Rams are doing a lot of it. I don't hate the Rams doing it just on like you're trying to capitalize on like you have a roster built. You have a very good roster built there. Maybe you could roll off a couple more. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to capitalize.
Oh yeah, they have a
And
limited
you've
window.
been yeah, and you've been trying to capitalize on Aaron Donald's career for a while. Cause like if they didn't do what they did last year, they might have gone all the way having Aaron Donald's entire career with them and not gotten a ring, having one of the best defensive players in the history of the game playing for them and not have gotten a single ring. So like make your moves. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't make a roster around him and you failed at getting a ring with a guy like Aaron Donald for his entire career, that'd have been a travesty to me.
Oh yeah, there are certain teams you definitely want to take that approach, like the Rams. They have a limited window, so yeah, you go all in. If you're the Buccaneers now that Tom is back, you go all in,
Oh yeah, you're
and
the Buccaneers right now. Absolutely, you were mortgaging your future because you didn't have a future.
yeah,
You've
so
you've never had a future. Like you've
yeah,
never really had anything. Go ahead, mortgage your future, and try to roll off a couple more Super Bowls with Tom Brady.
exactly. Yeah, so I mean, the rebuild will be long for those teams once the window is closed. You're talking probably to with all those dead cap hits that regardless of how much the salary cap is going to spike in future years, dead cap makes everything harder. So, your future is probably going to be being the New Orleans Saints, where you pull these fancy maneuvers to get out of cap hell, even though you're the very next year you're going to be right back in it again, and you're not going to be able to add significant pieces to your roster.
That's what I don't understand with the Saints every year, dude. Is people like, oh, was just the Saints? They'll get like they were going to add Deshaun Watson this year. I'm like, Well, how are you going to pay him? You're going to push more money fucking into further years, dude? You've already done enough of that. Like, you did that right now just to get, you did that the past 2 years just to get under the cap.
Yeah. And look what they're doing now. They're converting Taysom Hill into a tight end.
Yeah, so they can pay him less.
It's
And they
ridiculous.
finally realize that he's not a tight end. I mean, quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Or tight end.
What position is he? We don't know. But I mean,
Yeah, he's. Hey, you don't. I don't even hate him as a player, dude. I actually like those players that you can just throw him all over, put him all over the field. Hey, maybe he'll run a quick route. Maybe we'll hand the ball off to him. Maybe he'll throw a pass. I love that little cat, like a gadget guy.
oh, he's
It just.
entertaining to watch for sure.
It's like I almost just wish that they could just make that a position, just gadget guy.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
just so like we can understand like what you pay guys of like that position and like tier it. You know what I mean? Like they do with everything else. Because he's not a receiver, he's not a tight end, he's not a quarterback, he's not a running back.
yeah, it certainly
He's just
makes the way that you
he's
pay
just a
someone like
gadget.
that. Yeah, it makes the way you pay someone like that definitely tricky because I know years back when Jimmy Graham was still one of the best offensive players in football, he wanted to get he got
Paid like a wide
franchised. He wanted to
receiver.
he wanted to get paid like a receiver, and that was a whole big thing. It came up with
That was kind of funny.
Jamal Adams too. Like it sometimes the lines are a little bit blurred there.
Yeah, no, they are. It's weird. So yeah, we'll moving on from there, we'll jump right into Halo episode 2, and then we'll go to why you were here for. So Mark's not as into Halo as me, so I I watched episode 2. I really liked episode 1. As anyone who watched last week heard me, they're not following the game exactly. Just felt a little different. The point of view from inside the helmet was great. There's a couple things that I didn't like that much, but I liked it. It wasn't the exact direct approach to the story that I would have gone with, but I thought it was an interesting way they were doing it. So just to fill you in a little bit, Mark. So the end of episode 1, Master Chief found like this like artifact for the Covenant. Started having like visions of his past, and then he decides to go against UNSC protocol because this little girl that was in his ship, once he brought her back, it was like because of who her father was. Once they brought her back to UNSC, she was a fugitive refugee, and they were going to kill her.
Not ideal.
So he saved her life, and
Nice.
and didn't took off from the UNSC with the artifact to go find out more information. And I'm like, it was kind of cool that the Marines are going to try to bust into a ship, and the other Spartans come up. Their guns are like, "No, you're not going in there." And they give him time to power his ship back up and fly away, and just no one fucks with them because they're a bunch of big ass cyborgs. Like, it's pretty cool. And then you're like, oh yeah, now where's he going? Where are they going from here? Like, he's on the run. He's a fucking fugitive now. So this episode, he goes, it started out cool. First of all, guy was played by Bokeem Woodbine, and Bokeem Woodbine is awesome to me. I know you know who he is because you watch enough action movies.
Yes.
just guy who randomly shows up in action movies.
It's a good role to have.
Yeah, he's just side character in action movies. Small side character in action movies. Good thing to have. He's been doing it for like 20 years.
Yeah, it's good. That's the type of job that'll never go away.
Dude, he was in The Rock, and then he was in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Right, yep.
As the same role. So, like, you obviously you're doing your job right.
Exactly.
But he was a Spartan who, like, as a kid, he was running away from their program before they were in like the suits and everything, when they were still humans. And Master Chief gave him 5 minutes before he raised off the alarms and let him escape. So he goes to see this guy, And it's a whole, they talk about their past, they talk about the Spartans. Cool to make, painting the UNSC not to be like good guys, really. It's a cool aspect, whatever. Then he goes and sees some guy who she's been taken by the coven. He knows things. I'm like, oh, cool, like alien abduction guy. Like this is a trope that like has been played out so many times that like I thought Halo would be above alien abduction guy.
You
Like,
thought wrong.
yeah, like come on, man. That's the Master Chief is just going to a guy who's been abducted by the Covenant before, like to get information. No, he does cool like I don't know. I always thought he did cooler shit than that in the fucking games, dude.
Video game adaptations can be so tricky. I mean, we see it with
Yeah,
movies all the time. They
yeah, and I
try to.
understand you got to dramatize it, but I'm like, you gotta come up with something a little better than that for me.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
this is Halo.
We see it with movies where they try to stray from the actual game storyline just to make things interesting. Like Mortal Kombat, they introduce a brand new character to be your main character. Like this guy wasn't in the game. Like that. Like that can drive viewers
Yeah,
crazy.
and Mortal Kombat was able to skate away with it.
Yeah, I
Um,
enjoy I enjoyed it actually.
just because of, well, for one, it was the first time that we'd actually gotten to see like a real Mortal Kombat movie
Right. Yeah,
in
we're
live
not going to
action.
count we're not going to count the 90s.
I can't count them anymore because I've had this.
Yeah.
And like the actual seeing the get over here with score, like
That was
that
so
that
much
was
better.
great. All the blood, everything, the finishing moves. I was losing. I might watch that again today.
Yeah, I think it's back on HBO Max.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. That's a fun watch. But yeah, so this guy that he's talking to, he tells him they briefly mention the ring of Halo, the Halo. He calls it the ring, which everyone knows, like the Halo plan is just in a ring form. That's like all you get from this guy, and then Master Chief leaves the girl with him with Bokeem Woodbine and goes right back to the UNSC. So this whole Master Chief on the run storyline lasted not even an entire episode.
Great.
I'm like, okay, so it's a little boring. And then they start talking about that. They talked a little bit about Cortana. They introduced a little more of like that because he doesn't have Cortana yet. You've played the games, right?
Yeah, not in a
All
while,
right.
but I have.
So you at least understand the AI Cortana. So I don't know. So I liked one thing that she said talking about um, when they upload Cortana into the Spartans, they can make them upgradable. And I'm like, oh, that's a fun way of like saying like I can make this show more cool if you
Yeah.
give me more money. But I don't know. I'm just I on if I'm doing stars, I'd give this episode like a 5 out of 10, maybe because no, maybe not even because it's just so little happened. Like I said, it felt like filler, and like me and you were talking about before we went live. If you're doing filler in the second episode of the series in a limited series, I I don't know.
Yeah,
like
that's not something.
that's not good. I understand there was a little bit of world building. Yes, they introduced Cortana a little more, and yes, they mentioned the planet, but like that's still not like really world building.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean? Like
in a
you
situation
mentioned
like
you mentioned the planet not by name.
yeah, and in a situation like this, you have two choices. You can say, "Hey, this is a very popular franchise. Anyone who's going to tune into this will have played the game. Let's skip the exposition. Let's just trust that they know everything, and let's just go into telling a great story." Or you can try and do this, innate amount of world building for people who may not be fans of the game. But that's the riskier approach because, again, who's going to tune into a Halo series if they haven't played the game?
Well, and see, and it's all way too out of like linear, like out of line in the timeline for me on like how Halo works. So right now, the planet of Reach is still there. All the other Spartans are still there.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to do the Battle of Reach before, like, he goes to the planet of Halo because all the other Spartans get. There we are. I was just sitting there hoping it would come back. But yeah, it's all of that is still there, and they've already introduced like the planet of Halo and like done a whole thing with him like going on the run. It's like to me in the game they found out about the planet after all the other Spartans were wiped out. They didn't even like really find out about like I mean again you can change the beginning a little bit because the first game is they find the planet because their ship crashes after a battle with the Covenant. They crash land on the planet, and the Covenant were looking for it. He doesn't like already know about it like ahead of time. That's fine. You can change that like a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I can accept that, but now it's kind of just like I don't know. You get too much piled up like right now, dude. Like I would have been I would have liked it more if I think if I didn't hear anything about that ring, the ring planet, until like a few episodes down the road, and like you had a little more shit like going on. Like don't tease me with things yet when you haven't even like accomplished the beginning things.
Sure.
Like you know like you you want to tell the prequel to the first game and then the story of the first game, dude. Well, don't start teasing me with that shit that's later down the line that you haven't even fucking taken on the prequel part.
Yeah.
You haven't
And
even tackled the origin of Master Chief, and you're introducing the ring, and you had him take off his helmet in the first episode. So you, I don't know, kind of just like blowing everything, like blowing your load, basically, metaphorically.
yeah.
You're just putting it all way out there, like it's like, no, dude, slow down. You still got to tackle like 4 storylines.
Yeah, and in a limited series too, you have very little margin for error. Like you got to hook
Yeah,
viewers in right away. So if 2 episodes in, and I saw people complaining about the pilot. I know that you liked the pilot, but I saw a lot of people complaining about it.
I could understand the complaints because it wasn't like following the story exact, but I thought they were going to come up with like an interesting way, like off of that first episode. Like I thought maybe he was going to be on the run from like the UNSC figuring out like more about this artifact and like more about the Covenant, like for like part of the season. Maybe he's running from the Marines and shit. And then I'm like, okay, maybe they'll use this as the way to explain why he's not on Reach when all the other Spartans die.
Sure.
But now he's back on Reach working with the Spartans. Like, oh, okay. So that was just kind of just pointless then. You just
Pretty
you just
much.
wanted to introduce a crazy homeless guy that's been abducted by aliens to tell him about a ring planet. So you had him take off his I'm like again, I need to know more about what the point of this little girl is because like I don't really she's not a bad character, but it's a Halo show, so I don't really need the cute little girl that like cute, witty little girl, like sidekick to Master Chief thing, like that. Figuring out the rest of the story. I don't need that there. I just wanted a fucking big ass cyborg, cool suit, shooting aliens.
As do we all.
Yeah, and and I got some of that in the first episode. I liked the action scenes, and that's where I was like, okay, you got something. I liked where I thought they were gonna leave off with something cool, and there was good action scenes. In this episode, I had none of that.
Yeah, and
Like
I'm a sucker for streaming services. I have almost all of them. I think Paramount Plus is probably the only major streaming service I don't have. And this is not inspiring much confidence in me to actually
I
subscribe.
would actually recommend Paramount Plus.
You would?
I would highly recommend it. So for $4.99 a month, you do have to watch these things with commercials, which is a little annoying. But all the Scream movies,
Okay.
the new one is exclusive to Paramount Plus unless you want to rent it on another platform.
Sure.
Mirror of Kingstown, I just finished watching.
Oh, okay. That I've heard that's pretty good actually.
A fantastic watch. It was wild, absolutely fucking crazy show. And then I don't know, there's a movie Infinite with Mark Wahlberg that was okay, but like Wolf of Wall Street, I've seen is on there. Like there's some good movies on there, and like Mayor of Kingstown to me, honestly, is worth $4.99. Oh, dude, all the SpongeBob,
Oh, there you go.
all the old MTV stuff, all Jackass.
Interesting.
Oh, and South Park signed the deal with them.
Okay. Yeah, and at
That's
$4.99 too. That's one of those things where if I am not watching it very often, it's not noticeable enough for me to actually take the effort to cancel.
There are 2 new South Park movies on there.
Okay, well,
there are 2 post-COVID South Park movies on there that I just watched the other night, and they are fucking hilarious because, like, I mean,
you might be selling me. I might have to try it out now.
It's South Park post-COVID, so yeah, no, I almost sound like fucking Paramount Plus is paying me right now, but they're not.
I mean, if
I was just really impressed with fucking with their service.
if maybe they should be paying you.
I think maybe it should be. I think one of these dispensers, I could tell you where I got that very tasty vape pen from, but none of these medical dispensaries want to pay me yet. So, balls in your court. But let's jump into why you're here. Moon Knight episode 1 the other day. So, I'm not a huge Moon Knight fan. I've read Moon Knight comics over the years, kind of never even like a whole series, because there are like 1 to 5, like the strips.
Mm-hmm.
I've bought just like ones I've seen, random ones over the years. But he's just always been a cool character. That's why I just have like a bunch of random Moon Knight comics, because I see him on it. I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll read this real quick, whatever. I do like so I like seeing more. Did you know anything about Moon Knight before you like heard about the show or anything? So obviously everyone looks into the character more before the show comes out.
Yeah, I had a passing knowledge of Moon Knight before the show.
Me as well.
Yeah,
I don't really know the villains. I don't. That's one thing. I can't really say like who his main villains are or anything.
Yeah,
like I'm learning more as I'm going. I'm gonna do a little more research into the character, like as the show goes on.
Yeah, in terms of stuff that we've gotten in the MCU so far, Moon Knight and Guardians were pretty much the 2 properties that I did not have an extensive history reading the source material prior to them showing up. I had pretty much no knowledge of Guardians, and that was a pleasant surprise when that came out. And for Moon Knight,
Guardians, I knew Guardians, when I saw them, I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it hooked me very quickly.
Like once I saw them, I like recognized them. Was like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen them in like there's a side thing in a comic before there. I don't think I'd ever seen the. I'd never read a Guardians of the Galaxy comic.
Yeah, they were a fairly unpopular Marvel franchise, and as soon as they were on the big screen, that's when they suddenly had their own cartoon. People were getting more into the source material, and I expect that to happen with Moon Knight too, where people are going to get very much. I've already had people reach out to me, and tell me, different, what they recommend that I read in terms of the Moon Knight source material. So I'm excited to
I'm
read
gonna
more
look
about it.
into it. I want to look into more of I'm assuming that there's got to be adult oriented comics written under the Moon Knight character.
Right.
I'm assuming there are good graphic novels like for Moon Knight because
There have to be, yeah.
I mean he's obviously a dark character. Like you can tell, like even just in the little glimpses of comics that I've read, he's obviously a dark character.
Yeah, and people make the Batman comparisons. There's a lot of similarities, albeit different origins. But Batman
Well,
obviously a huge graphic novel source material, so
yeah.
it would have to be for Moon Knight as well.
Well, and I mean, I love the idea, like the whole Egyptian gods and everything is just awesome. Like if that's what, because that's kind of what a Met clearly had something to do with that, right? Wasn't a Met one of the Egyptian gods?
Hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, so like digging into all of that is like all the villains are gonna have something to do with that. I'm excited. This episode, I liked it. I liked the whole. For one, that's the other thing. Is any Moon Knight comic I've read, I've only read in the point of view of Mark Spector.
Yep.
I actually didn't know Stephen Grant. So like this was actually an interesting like part of that to me. Like seeing that I didn't even know that before. It always there was a voice in his head that he like talked to, and I thought he was just fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Which,
exactly. And Moon Knight has, I think, three or maybe even four different personas. I don't know if we'll see any others besides Stephen Grant and Mark Spector, but
I mean,
episode one.
we won't see any more than Stephen Grant for until they've their contract with Oscar Isaac runs out, at least because they've they're not killing him off until they can't afford him anymore. Which
I
I
mean,
don't know.
Disney can afford everyone.
Yeah, Disney. I was just gonna say, I don't think there'll ever be a point that Disney can't afford someone.
Yeah, if they could afford to keep paying Robert Downey Jr. for more than a decade, they can afford Oscar Isaac. Trust me.
Yeah.
But, but I mean, I I loved episode one, taking everything in from the perspective of Stephen Grant. I mean, very quickly you really feel for the guy because clearly he has to take all these precautions. He doesn't he fears going to sleep because he is on the right track. He knows that something happens when he goes to sleep. He wakes up in weird places. He puts the piece of tape on his door, the restraints on his bed. Like he's like something happens when
Yeah,
I go to sleep.
they could have good like foreboding sense to it. It didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like you felt like worried, like, oh shit, what does he get into when he's asleep?
Yeah, exactly. So I loved the telling this episode from Steven's perspective. I have a feeling that episode two is going to be told mostly from Mark's perspective.
Yeah, Cole, I can see that with the kind of with the way it ended. Me and you talked about this the other day. With the way that ended, though, I'd like that, especially because now we've seen like we haven't seen any Moon Knight action really.
Yeah,
We saw him beat up that one thing at the end, but like we haven't seen Moon Knight action.
I like how they built up to that too,
And
where
it was annoying me at first. I was just gonna say this, but I liked it like as it went on, and it became like a little bit of a gimmick.
yeah, like he blacks out. Steven wakes back up. He sees blood and
Yes.
people knocked out. He's like, "What just happened here?"
And that's one of my. I like that there's the blood in it because it. I mean, this is Disney. This is Marvel. We saw the blood in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but a little bit. But like this felt like it felt darker, didn't it?
Absolutely, and I mean the timing of all of this is pretty, it's pretty coincidental because they just brought over all the Netflix shows, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, which sucked. Like they brought all those over, and that's when they set up the hey, you can put parental controls on your Disney Plus so
Mm-hmm.
that this only this more mature material can only be shown if you know the pin and I and then Moon Knight comes out, a week after. So I have a feeling
And
that it was timed up pretty well.
well, you know who does have a pretty good relationship with Moon Knight, Mark Spector in the comics, right?
Who's that?
Frank Castle.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah.
So it is interesting that you're right. It's all of that happened to fall in line right with the release of Moon Knight.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Bernthal is the one guy who we have not gotten any sort of confirmation that he's coming back. He's said he wants to come back, but that's the only one so far. I mean, Charlie Cox is back, D'Onofrio's back. Pretty much the
but
entire cast of
you know what?
Daredevil is coming back.
Bernthal's not D'Onofrio. Bernthal would keep it in his pocket.
Yeah, yeah,
He
exactly.
wouldn't. He
D'Onofrio
wouldn't
tells the
tweet it.
world.
Yeah, D'Onofrio tweets it out like the minute that it happens.
Yeah, he's like,
But
by the way, guys, I'm definitely in Hawkeye.
yeah, can't wait for you guys to see me in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we weren't supposed to tell anyone. Bernthal will keep that fucking secret, though. I have a feeling he would.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
But I could see them. I could see them pulling that off as just an appeasement to people, like, and even just as like a, hey, like heads up, like we're not done with John Bernthal's Punisher. Like they have to
Definitely.
see they see what we see, right?
Oh, they definitely do. Feige's not an idiot.
Yeah, no, he's not an idiot. They have to see what we all see. That is the closest to Frank Castle you have and will ever get.
Definitely.
And I don't. Um. But yeah, so I mean I really liked this episode of Moon Knight, man. I like the mysterious sense to it. Um, that whole town that now the dude, what's that cult leader's name? I know
Ethan Hawke's character, he says to call him
it's
Arthur.
Ethan fucking Hawke. Yeah, call him Pritchard. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Pritchard, right?
No, so he has another name, but he says to the townspeople to call him Arthur.
Arthur. Oh, all right. So I don't know where that's gonna go, but like they've built that character up very well. I don't know anything about him, but like they made that very interesting because even if he was just a creepy dude that like could kill people by touching them, judging them on the scales, and had like an army of people behind him, that would be pretty intimidating. But like he called out like some Egyptian demon, like at the end of that episode right there.
Yeah, and I think they've positioned him to appear to be the main antagonist, the main villain of this series, and I think that's not going to wind up being the case. So I'm interested to see where that goes because he certainly pulled off. Ethan Hawke is a tremendous actor. He pulled off the creepy villainous vibe. I have a feeling that he's going to be someone who has been taken advantage of as well. The same way that Steven has had someone take over his body.
Yeah.
I see that happening for Arthur as well.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind, I was going to say that I said I don't see him being like the main antagonist for the entire series. Moon Knight is not opposed to killing his enemies.
This is true.
As we've clearly seen without seeing. Which was that that guy to do. That was just kind of funny. Like when that first happened, I was like, I was a little like bummed out because we saw like all the bodies on the ground and all the blood everywhere, and I was like, oh, I kind of wish we saw that. But then it kept happening. I'm like, all right, this is kind of funny because like you're thinking about it from that dude's perspective, like what the fuck is going on, dude? Like I was kind of like I was laughing at it for like just like laughing at like what the fuck is going on in Steven's head right now? Like imagine that happening to you.
Yeah,
Just, you
it's
just
so strange.
people attacking you, you black out, fucking bunch of bodies, you just have a gun in your hand, more people coming at you, like ah.
Yeah, he's wondering what happens, and honestly, the relationship between Steven and Mark, as it's been depicted so far, it actually reminds me a lot of what Marvel has done, especially in the MCU, with how they have presented Banner and the Hulk, where you have two
Yep.
people very much fighting for control over the vessel, over the body. And it's even at the obviously between Banner and Hulk, it was combative until they learned to work together. But you had Mark almost say to the end, like, "Hey, like, I think Mark has a soft spot for Steven. I think he likes him. We know that Khonshu, the other voice, hates him, calls him an idiot.
Yeah.
Surrender
Oh
the body to
great, the
Mark.
idiot's back.
Yeah. But I think Mark has a soft spot for Steven. I mean, he gets him a date with one of his coworkers that Steven didn't
Yeah.
know about. He's saying like, "Hey, I can save us. You're not going to die. Just give me control." Like, so I think that he has a little bit of a soft spot for Steven, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. And it'll be fun to see that relationship develop. And I'm like we said, it's hopefully, at least for me, it's hopefully going to be mostly from Mark's perspective next week. And I think next week they'll introduce us to a little bit more of like Moon Knight in action.
Exactly. Yeah.
This
And
is because this is see the Disney doesn't need to, and Marvel don't need to world build like they used to nowadays. They can just throw people in there now, and everyone's just like, yeah, cool, yeah, dude, I'll find out about that guy as we go. Yeah, all right, this sounds great. Isn't that a Marvel character? Yeah, all right.
I think that's what they're doing right now, because this is the first Disney Plus series that is a completely brand new character. We're doing the origin. Every other series, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, What If, it's all existing properties in the MCU we've already seen on screen. This is an origin, and I have a feeling they're probably gonna make very minimal connection to the larger universe.
Yeah, so I think sort of like how Netflix was doing it, where Daredevil and the Punisher and Luke Cage kind of like existed in just like this darker, like for like the the underbelly of the Marvel universe. You know what I mean? With
Hmm.
obviously Matt Murdock appears in Spider Man, but like, and that's kind of how Moon Knight is in the comics. Like as far as I know, is he's just like one of those darker characters. He'll come and get involved every once in a while. Like they might know who he is, but like it's just not. They don't work with him because it's like he's usually handling like his own thing, like kind
Yeah.
of. Yeah. The one thing I do know is that him and Frank Castle are known to be kind of friends. They fuck with each other.
Oh yeah, and I think eventually you will see some sort of team up involving Moon Knight, but for the purposes of this series, I don't think that they have any plans on using it as a way to set up future events or tie into the larger story. I think they're simply saying this is a really cool character. We're going to give you 6 awesome episodes of Moon Knight.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, they might just keep a little Moon Knight series going.
Yeah,
Like
and then eventually
they
you bring him in somewhere else.
or and you can even just have Doctor Strange mention fucking Mark Spector by name in a movie, and people just, oh my god, Stephen Strange said Mark Spector.
Yeah, where's the Easter egg exactly?
Yeah, well, everyone will go crazy. Like I'm making fun of like people for being suckers to Marvel. I'm like, here I am, a sucker for fucking everything they put out now. It's just true, dude. We all are. They they put out any of their properties now. We're going to see it. They don't miss.
Oh yeah, no, they
They're
do
just
a
they're at a point now that they're not missing anymore. It's
yeah, they just do a tremendous job. But I do like the approach that I think that they are taking with Moon Knight, where it is going to be a self-contained story. Because that one thing that annoyed me about fan reaction on social media with WandaVision, especially with WandaVision, but with Falcon and Winter Soldier, is always who's going to show up, who's going to cameo. It's like stop being obsessed with who's going to show up. Stop looking for
yeah.
Mephisto and just enjoy the story that's being told.
Yeah, like I said, I can see Frank Castle showing up in the Moon Knight show. I don't think it might not. If this is only 6 episodes, you said
Yeah,
they wouldn't do that yet.
yeah. I think maybe a
They
second
they
season.
they wouldn't bring out John Bernthal yet if this was only 6 episodes. If it was like 8 to 10, I could see them doing that. But no, they're going to build more on just the character of Moon Knight.
Exactly.
I'm excited for it, and like I it feels like they want to flirt with that TVMA rating.
Yeah, I think they want to find a way to push the envelope in a way that if you can't sully the Disney name by having a darker movie on screen, which by the way you're going to have Deadpool soon, so you're probably going to
Yeah,
find
well, by the way, if you come out with a Deadpool that's rated PG-13 or a Blade that's rated PG-13, I will not be going to see them.
yeah, like I think they have acknowledged
You
that
will not get my money on that.
yeah, I think they've acknowledged they can make those properties rated R. I think that they've established a universe to this point where they say, okay, we can put something rated R, and it's not going to compromise Disney values.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they have because if they can, the fact that they started putting the Punisher shows and everything um on Disney Plus and that everything has looked dark, it does make me feel better about like the Blade movie that like they're planning in the future because it makes me feel better that maybe they'll go for the R rating. That's one thing. I was just watching them yesterday and like, dude, I would love to go see. Like, I would love to see Marvel like really like go to work with this character and all these villains and everything, but like only if they're gonna have them chopping their heads off with a sword and blood spewing everywhere. Like
Exactly, and I mean,
it's got to
even
be a Blade movie. Like
yeah, and they have even though it's been in bits and pieces. I mean, Endgame starts with Thor chopping Thanos' head off. So I mean, it's they have shown bits and pieces of
yeah.
more advanced violence, but to have a full movie contained with it, I think that is the next progression for them.
Well, and see, well, it is kind of they're on the progression too, as they're growing with. I guess they're growing with their audience,
Yeah,
right? Like, I mean, obviously, we were old enough to watch the violence in the movies when they started coming out, but for the younger generation below us, who's now getting to 18, 20 years old, we want to keep them interested too, right?
exactly. They can handle it, and with this new setup with Disney Plus, where you can put parental controls on, it's another way to
Exactly.
say, okay, if you do not want your children watching this more mature Marvel content, you don't need to. All you need to do is put the settings, and they won't be able to see it.
Yeah, it's well, them doing that. It's almost like the MCU has finally introduced the Marvel Max line.
Yeah,
This is basically what they're doing now. Is it's the Marvel Max comics just in streaming version,
right.
and then I'm for it. I want them to. Well, we're so off topic. I want them to announce a new Punisher season. Now they've said we're gonna have mature rated content on Disney Plus. I want them to add more seasons. Reboot Daredevil, I think.
That's
Kind
coming.
of it I do a soft reboot, not
Yeah,
full, because you've got Kingpin and Murdoch already like established, but like they killed Bullseye, right? In the end of season 3, you got to bring back Bullseye. You got to
yeah.
cast him better.
I think a soft reboot is absolutely the way they're going to go there, where it's just, hey, we're going to keep the same cast, we are going to keep a lot of the same themes, but we're not tied to the timeline of that other show because that it doesn't count. Agents of Shield doesn't count. Feige has said this, like anything that was over on network TV or on Netflix, it does not count in the MCU. So a soft reboot where they say, you're already familiar with these characters, but I think they even rumored that Daredevil's going to have the yellow suit in this one. So a little bit of a soft reboot, I think, is the best way to go.
A Punisher even soft reboot I'd be fine with because
Yeah,
Netflix didn't exactly tell the story the right way to tell it. I didn't hate their telling of it, but I would like to see like the real Jigsaw Billy.
yeah.
Billy Russo, like, because it's not Billy Russo, it's Billy Rosati.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he didn't have enough of a Jigsaw look to him too.
and he wasn't a fucking mobster.
Yeah,
It was fine. Make him a CIA agent thing, but whatever. But like, no, it's not fine.
yeah, he was your average government agent, basically.
Yeah, like it was just a little unnecessary for me. I like Frank killing mobsters because that's kind of what is supposed to be the beauty of Frank Castle.
Yeah,
He's fighting people that aren't trained to fight him.
yeah, he does it so well.
Like he just mows through people because he's Frank Castle. Anyway, that's all we got. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next. Oh, wait, no, that's not all we got. Triple T's. I could not forget about this one. This was, like I said, this is, I think, the worst sports take in the history of Twitter. I saw someone say that Trey Young would be the best player in the history of the Boston Celtics.
That's great. That's great.
I can't.
What's funny about that take is that he wouldn't be the best player on this year's Boston Celtics.
You wouldn't be the best player on this year's Celtics. Yeah, like I can think of at least one player on the Boston Celtics right now that is higher all time than Trey Young.
And that's the problem with NBA Twitter is more so than NFL Twitter or any other sports Twitter. NBA Twitter is filled with like 15 and 16-year-olds who just
and they have no idea about the past. I mean, dude, they're the best player in the history of the Boston Celtics. There are two undisputed top 10 players all time in NBA history that played for the Celtics.
Yeah, and
that's just two people.
They think that the NBA basically it started in the year 2000. It was post Y2K. That's the first year of the NBA according to these people because anything that Jordan did it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Anything that Larry Bird and the 80s Lakers and Celtics, none of that exists. It's all LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kobe. These are the very best players of all time.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. It's just I just can't believe I actually saw someone have that take. The only take that I think I've seen on terrible Twitter takes that was maybe worse than that was the guy when we first started doing this that said Larry Bird was a one-dimensional player.
Oh yeah, yeah, it makes sense.
That was one of the funniest takes I've ever seen. I don't think that's quite as bad as this because I mean if I really want to list off the Celtics players that are better all time than Trey Young at this point. I mean,
maybe it was the same guy.
I mean, because I could just go with Russell, Cousy, Havlicek, Collins, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Pierce, Garnett, Allen, Rondo, Tatum.
I mean, you have basically a full roster worth of players who are better than Trey Young.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not looking into our history and looking at it. So I'm just saying this off the top of my head. This is just I can just rifle that off. Players in the Celtics history better than Trey Young. It was easy. Shit, Jaylen Brown.
I mean, Trey Young is a fantastic player, but yeah, just like you literally need to look no further than this season, where Jason Tatum is now third on the MVP ladder, third or fourth in the MVP ladder that the league even puts out. Okay, he's clearly better than Trey Young.
Yeah, he's fine. He's actually an MVP. Oh, and I was like, I mean, if we really want to talk about it, like Marcus Smart is a defensive player of the year candidate. Trey Young's a turnstile on defense.
Yeah, you want to talk about a one-dimensional player. I mean, Trey Young does a ton of different things on offense, but defensively is one of the biggest liabilities on his team.
Yeah. I guess we could touch on. We already kind of touched on the people earlier. We were talking about Devontae Parker will play his usual 5 games this season. We'll just go with the facts. He's never played in less than 10 games this season. Just for all you people who don't know how to actually follow sports
or count, basically.
Yeah, or count. Yes. For those who don't know how to count, or Google.
Twitter is full of those people. I think you shared a tweet from Miguel where someone says,
"Oh my God, that was
Devontae Parker's not younger than Robert Woods." And Miguel just very kindly goes, "Here's what I found: his age."
If this is incorrect, please correct me down below. You almost feel like Miguel's a bot, but he's not. He's just a really nice guy. He's just like a Mike Reese.
Yeah, he burns people in the most polite way possible.
But yeah, anyway, that's so we got. Don't forget, folks, this episode has been brought to you by creationsnacks.com. Use code BCMG for 20% off. They've been joined today by Mark Pacelli, who will probably be back in the near future to talk a little bit more about Moon Knight. Mark, why don't you tell folks where they can find you?
So I can be found on Twitter at Mark Pacelli13. That is Piselli. Currently, I have both Dolphins and Bills fans invading my mentions. They're very upset with me. So if you want to get entertained by that, definitely check that out.
Yeah, I will be. Well, actually, you'll be sending it all into the chat we're in anyway. So
exactly.
But yeah, I'll be back next week at probably the same time. I don't know. We'll talk a little bit more Moon Knight, a little more Halo. Hopefully, I'll be a little happier with Halo next week.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because I really had high hopes after episode 1.